Welcome to HECTV's live interactive program tonight that's part of St. Louis.
The whole production is pulled together.
It's going to be a steel bridge.
On the American classic novel,
The car that put America on wheels.
Welcome to HECTV Live. Welcome to HECTV Live. Good morning, everybody. I'm Tim Gore, your host for today's program, and we're inside the artist studio today at the Portfolio Gallery as we go in depth with artist Lonnie Powell. To my right, actually, is Robert Powell, the owner, curator, education maestro, etc. of Portfolio Gallery. We're going to have a chance to talk to him about the gallery itself, but most of our program obviously will be with the artist Lonnie Powell and give you a chance to look at some examples of his work and ask him questions about how he does his work, why he does his work, and obviously we're interested in your opinions about his work. Plus, you may have a work of your own that you want to share with the artist, and we'd be happy to see that as well. If you guys are joining us via interactive video conference or view-only video conference, or if you're joining us via television or the web, don't forget we also accept questions through our email throughout the course of the program. That email is live@hectv.org. That email is live@hectv.org. I'll ask everybody who's joining us via video conference, whether interactive or view-only today, to please mute your microphones at your end. I'll be coming to you throughout the program to ask questions and interact with you guys, and we'll establish a rotation for that, and you'll know it. So thanks very much for making sure those microphones are muted throughout the program. I'll come to you. Don't forget, if you're watching on TV or the web, it's live@hectv.org for your questions. But let's meet this man to my right, Robert Powell. Robert, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Well, thank you, Tim.
Let's talk a little bit about Portfolio Gallery itself. What does it do? What's its mission? How long has it been here?
Well, I am the founder of Portfolio Gallery and Educational Center. You mentioned owner. We're actually a not-for-profit 501c3 arts organization. Our mission is to educate, enrich lives, and foster a greater awareness of American artists of African American heritage. And we do that by providing classes to children, youth, adults, and the developmentally disabled, and through fine art exhibits such as the one you will view today. We do about 7 here per year in this facility, and then we do another 3 to 4 outside this venue. So we try to put art in the lives of everyone and believe that it's an important part of everyday life.
Now, people might be wondering, in an economic situation like we're currently under, do you guys notice any difference in terms of people coming to art galleries, or is there a reduction in sales, or is art basically constant at whatever level?
Well, for us, it's been pretty steady. The sale of art has not been what has kept the doors open for Portfolio. It has been our educational classes, and for those various classes, we've received the Missouri Arts Award, which is the highest award that the state gives. And this year, from Arts and Education Council, we received the Excellence in the Arts. So we just keep trying to do great programming. We're trying to pull in the collector a little bit more and show them the value of collecting art.
And I know you guys have a website. People might want to go to portfoliogallerystlouis.org to learn more, right? portfoliogallerystlouis.org.
That's correct, and they can keep up with us and the things that we're doing.
The exhibit we're going to see today, Still All Over the Place by Lonnie Powell, is here until January.
That's correct.
Give the students an idea, though, about how do you determine who exhibits in your space? Do your exhibitors come from all over the place? How does one get to do an art exhibition?
Well, what we try to do is meet artists. And we often ask our board members, our friends, as they travel the country, to tell us about artists that they have seen, who they like, and if possible, we'll try to bring them in. Artists also tell each other, who have shown here, tell about the space and what we try to do to promote it. And the word has just gotten out over the past 20 years that this is a nice venue. So we've had national, international artists here, and the beginning artists.
Well, Robert, thanks so much for being here and having us here at Portfolio Gallery.
Thank you. I'm excited about the partnership.
And let's bring in your brother, who happens to be the artist whose work we're going to see today. I'll bring in Lonnie Powell now. Lonnie, come right on in and join us. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're going to have a chance to interact with Lonnie throughout the course of today's program as we look at specific examples of his work. But before we start to look at the first one, I thought it might be nice to give you some background information about Lonnie. So, Lonnie, why don't you talk to the kids a little bit about your history, your background? Has art always been a part of your life? Did you want to draw when you were 3, or did it come to you at 13 or 30?
Well, like I've always said, as far back as I can remember of being here on planet Earth, I've been drawing. And to me, there's no beginning and there is no end. It seems like as soon as I started breathing, I was drawing, or as soon as I recognized that I existed, I was drawing already. So it's been a life thing with me, and that's about all I can say about that.
Well, that's good, because we have a chance to learn a lot more about you as we look at the examples of your work. So I want to go to our interactive groups. You're going to have the chance to ask Lonnie a lot of questions. We're going to begin. The course of the program will be to look at a work. We'll be interested in your response to that work and your questions about that work. And as we talk about that work, we'll learn more about Lonnie and what he does, the various media that he uses, and why he paints the way he does. So we're actually going to switch our camera now down to the first floor of the Portfolio Gallery, where you're going to see the first work that we're going to talk about. And while you guys look at this work of this woman right there, as you guys look at the work of this woman, Lonnie and I will walk downstairs and we'll join you by the painting. So Lonnie, we'll head down the stairs right now. So the work that you guys are looking at is a mixed media work. And Lonnie, could you talk a little bit about what is meant by mixed media?
Well, that just simply means that the artist uses more than one medium in the work. This one happens to be a mixture of graphite and pastel, and there might even be a little watercolor in there.
We'll organize ourselves in this way, and Lonnie and I'll stand here, and let's go to each of our groups and think about questions you might have as you look at this particular work, or questions you might have for Lonnie about just what he does. Let's go back to Kennedy Elementary, who I talked to also. Kennedy Elementary in Medford, Oregon. If you guys are there, what questions do you have about this piece? What thoughts do you have?
How long ago did you make the painting?
How long ago did you make this work, and how long did it take you to create it?
Okay, this is a piece that had been around the studio for a number of years. I usually work on 4 or 5 pieces at a time, and I do that because I never want to overwork one. So when I get tired or get lost and don't know where to go on a particular piece, I'll stop, put it down, and pick up another one and start working on it. Now, sometimes when I put them down, I might not pick them up for another 2 or 3 years. But sometimes when you go in the studio, you just say, you look at the piece and you say, it all comes clear to you. You pick it up, finish it.
It's good to go.
And it's good to go. So this is one of those, and it started as a drawing with pencil, as most of my drawings do. Most of my artwork starts with the pencil, okay? And on top of that might go oils or watercolor or whatever medium I choose. And this is
If you want to point to some things, go ahead and come right on in toward the picture and point out any particular items.
This is just one that, I don't know, it was just fun to do.
Okay, I like this
the
painting.
attitude of it.
The attitude of the young woman is great, and I'd be interested for student responses to the attitude of the woman here. This is the personal favorite of our producer, Laura Susik. I should mention that.
Right.
She loves this work. I like this work a great deal too. It looks to me like she's a very strong young woman in this painting.
Right.
Let's find out from our friends in Cyprus. Do you guys have some reaction to this work we're looking at right now, Cyprus? And do you all have a question for Mr. Powell? Go right ahead.
Can you please tell me, what does this work symbolize?
What does the work symbolize? What are you thinking as an artist when you're doing this work?
Oh, this was just a piece. I just wanted it to be just a bold recognition of self. really wasn't trying to have a whole lot of message in it, just light and dark, once again, how the light works on the model. And like I said, it was just, you know, I get in these funny moods sometimes, and this one just struck me when I did the drawing, and yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces.
Oh,
too,
that's always good to know. Laura will be thrilled that you like it as well.
However, I didn't think anyone liked it but me.
Deer Park Elementary in Newport News, Virginia. Deer Park, we were hoping you were going to join us this morning as well. If you have thoughts about this painting and a question for the artist, please unmute your microphone, come in and ask.
Who and or what has inspired you to create your artwork?
Who and or what? What are different things that have inspired you over time?
When I was about 10 years old and eager to learn all about the different artists that there were, and I had no role models to, I didn't know an artist, okay? And so I never knew what an artist was supposed to do, besides draw. And so I would go to the library and I would always look up the great masters and try to imitate them, and I noticed that there were no positive images of African Americans. Out of all the art, and the whole library's full of art books, the only thing that I would see when I did see an African American or an African depicted, they were like in a servile position. You know, holding a tray or holding George Washington's horse, and I remember how happy I was when I discovered a painting by Rubens called "The Heads of Negro," and that was the first time that I had ever seen an African depicted in something other than a servile or demeaning kind of way. And so, of course, Rubens became my favorite, but then it was a long time before I saw anything else. So I had made it my mission that day that I was going to paint positive images of African Americans. And that's pretty much what I do.
And that's a lot of what we're going to see today are those examples of those kinds of works. This is just one of them. We're going to go into the next room so we can look at a different example. The next example you're going to see is also mixed media, but as you'll notice, it's going to have a totally different use of color in it than you're going to see here. So our handheld cameraman, Dan's going to begin to move into the other room now. Hopefully, he's going to be sensational at this, so don't worry about it being too jerky, folks. And as Dan, go ahead and feel free to move, Dan. And as Dan does that, I'm going to just see for a moment, Salt River, are you guys in the bridge and your students arrived? Because we're interested in making sure you've got questions for us if you are. So Salt River, are you there? If so, come in and say hello.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, great. We'll come back to you guys for questions then as we look at this particular piece. So as we look at this piece, and Lonnie, I won't have you say anything about it yet. I'll let the kids ask. You guys are going to notice that it's very different from the first work we saw. This, however, is also a mixed media piece. It includes a variety of different media in it. The use of color is obviously different. There's actually a number of works in this exhibition which depict groups of women like this with a lot of color, and we may be talking to Lonnie about that depending upon what questions you guys have. But let's go back to Salt River in Scottsdale, Arizona, since I know you guys are there. Do you have any thoughts about this work as you look at it, what you like, what strikes you, what you notice about it? What do you think about maybe it's trying to say or its emotion? And what question do you have right now for Lonnie?
Significance in the number of women, 3 women.
Is there any specific reference to, you had 3 women in this group. Why the number? And I'll ask, why the colors?
Okay. 3 has always been a good number for me. It balances very nicely. It flows nicely in most compositions. And most of my compositions will probably have 3 or 1. There's a certain kind of harmony about that, about 1 or 3. And if there are more, then what I was taught in school, that you should always have an uneven number.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, people like uneven numbers, it
right.
seems. I mean, you hear that all the time.
Right.
That people like 1s and 3s and 5s and 7s.
So now I, you know, it's beat into me and taught into me, and I find myself really liking that.
Very cool.
Probably like 1 better than 3, but that's the only one.
Well, it'll be interesting then, kids, as we go upstairs, we'll see, does he stick with 3s, or we sing some 1s or some 4s or some 5s? So think about that.
Oh yeah, you'll see others.
I want to go back to Technology High School in Newark. Technology, if you're there and you've got a thought about this painting or a question, come right in right now. All right, Technology, I'm not hearing you, so I'm assuming the students haven't arrived yet. Let's go on to Kennedy Elementary in Medford, Oregon again. Kennedy, your thoughts about this painting and another question you might have about this work or about any work of Mr. Powell's?
What inspired you to do this piece of artwork?
What inspired you to do this particular piece?
Okay, now the first example that you saw there was actually one of the models. I mean, and she was just clowning, you know, and I just enjoyed the whole experience there. Now, this one I did not have any models, so this is called more a conceptual piece, where I just grabbed the canvas and started drawing. I did a few little preliminary sketches before I started on the canvas, but basically, my sketch and what it ended up being on the canvas was a little different. I don't know where that sketch is now, but so this is a conceptual piece that comes directly out of my head. There are no natural resources or models or anything for me to look at. This is just my imagination. And I like to do this kind of work, and I like to do work with models. And you'll see that as we go through. And I just wanted to make a very colorful image here with women singing praise. This is called And Sometimes I Hear Them Singing. And sometimes I do hear these voices in my head. I hope the students don't equate that to,
Well,
to other voices.
Crazy, right?
That's what they
That's
tell
what
me.
they tell me, though. I don't think it's true. So I can see that definitely here. The colors and their expressions, they're definitely praising.
Yes. And once again, I would call this a positive image.
Okay.
And the colors, you know, it didn't make any difference. I mean, color is always secondary to me. The line, the spaces between the heads, the composition is really more what I enjoy.
Okay.
Colors they're great, and I love color, but my real love is the drawing underneath all of the color.
Very cool. That's good to know. Cypress, let's go to you guys for your thoughts on this work and a question for the artist.
I would first like to say that's a wonderful drawing. I would like to ask you, what is the message conveyed through the bright colors in the faces?
Oh, any particular message that I mean, the bright colors reinforce your message of praise? I mean, is that why you chose bright colors? And for example, the use of the flowers too?
Yes. Flowers, another thing that I don't paint a lot of, okay? And so there are this heavy use of colors here, but I tried to keep them pastel and kind of muted to give an overall harmony. But then at the same time, I needed some practice on drawing flowers, since I don't do a whole lot of that. And flowers and song just seem to go together well for me. And so we have, and sometimes I hear them singing. I also did a sequel to this that was called And Yet They Sing.
Okay. Now this is a mixed media piece. I know there's drawing. Is this oil? Is this acrylic?
This is acrylic with a little pastel that has been watered down and sprayed over, and it's basically acrylic.
Okay.
But then I did use a little pastel in the background and rubbed it in, and then came back and outlined
the students
the
probably
figures.
aren't able to pick up the texture necessarily very much, but when you're here up close, you can definitely get the texture that comes, because some places are pastel, some places have the acrylic, and that's really cool to see, to bring out that texture.
And the movement in it, I liked how it kind of almost circly.
It is almost, yes.
With the flowers and the heads and everything working there.
Very
And
cool.
like I said, I get excited about little spaces in between and,
that's
and
what
all
makes
of that, to make that color just kind of pop through there.
Students, that's something for you guys to think about. What is it about art that really intrigues and interests you? Is it spaces? Is it figure? Is it composition? Is it line? Is it color? Is it a combination? Thanks,
Right.
Lonnie, for sharing that, because that's part of what everybody thinks about when they're doing their work. We're going to begin to go upstairs now. We're going to go upstairs now, and we're going to go to another work that is entirely pastel. And as we look at this work, we're going to be interested in your reaction. We're going to be interested in your reaction again as we do that. So, Lonnie, if you guys want to join me upstairs, I don't know if you guys are going to see my bald spot as we walk up or not, as the case may be.
I'll try to cover it up.
and we'll go to this piece right here.
Okay.
And Lonnie, if you'll stand on this side of it, I'll go up here.
All right.
And let the students have a chance just to look at it for a bit. This is a piece that's entirely in pastel. You're going to notice use of color again, and you might have some thoughts about color. You might have some thoughts about the amount of people in this work as you see what's in there. And of course, we'll talk about its title and what's behind it. But let's go to Salt River again in Scottsdale, Arizona. Salt River, do you guys have a thought about this painting as you look at it in terms of what you like or think about it? And a question for the artist.
What does your picture represent?
What does this picture represent? Talk a little bit about the representation you're after here, Lonnie.
You'll notice that I have a fondness for drawing the female figure. I don't do a lot of males, so this was one that I wanted to do for my brothers, and
hence the title.
Hence the title, My Brothers. Now, people ask me, are you talking about your real brothers or what? Because I do have 5 brothers.
Oh, wow.
But actually, no, this was brothers in a broader sense. And once again, you will see the colors popping through, the negative spaces, and the composition with these little green spots popping through there are what excites me about this piece.
We had an email question, and don't forget, folks, you can email us to live@hectv.org. That's live@hectv.org. We had an email question about technique. Obviously, the last piece we talked about, you were drawing and then painting over it. Talk a little bit about your technique with pastels, and are there different techniques you like the most?
Well, a lot of things happen quite by accident, and then you just keep doing it. I had my paper taped down on a piece of cardboard, and if you'll notice these ridges in here, one day I was working with the pastel, and I liked the horizontal lines going through here, and so I played with that texture and enjoyed it, and I continued it on some other pieces.
Very cool.
But just these simple, real faint lines going through there, I thought gave it an extra texture and tried not to show it so much in the faces, but in the garments, played it up. And I like red and blue.
All right.
And how they work together. I've often tried to do a composition with red, yellow, and blue, the three primary colors, but I could never get quite the right mixture since all of them started fighting each other. So,
well, and that's not a good thing.
When I'm doing a piece, I call these experiments. Each one of my pieces are experiments. But once again, this is a conceptual piece, no models, straight out of the head, and just images running through my head. So not so much images, but patches of darks and lights. First of all, this is a series of darks and lights, and those darks and lights have color here.
You just talked about models, and we've talked about models a little bit before, and we had an email question come to us from Lafayette High School in Wildwood. Thanks, guys, for that question. Do you talk about your use of live models versus not? Do live models help inspire your work? Do you use them more frequently, less frequently? Does it just depend?
Well, ever since I was a kid, again, people used to run when they see me because I'd, let me draw you, and they couldn't sit still, you know. And so when I would approach a group of my friends, they'd start disappearing. He's going to draw us. And so usually it's the model who is not even thinking about being a model that gets to be a model, okay? And so it's something in their face, or, you know, we were talking yesterday about it's not so much the face, but what life has done to that face, or how this person has, and it all comes out in their countenance. And so I see a person and I say, I got to paint you, or
and they don't necessarily know it's even happening. Very cool. Let's go to more student questions. Kennedy Elementary in Medford, a thought about this work and questions from you?
What inspired you to do this piece of art?
This particular piece, we talked a little bit about that with the brothers. Anything else that would come out different?
No, this is basically just about there's been a lot of talk about the African American male, and this was kind of a call to come back and unify and
very cool
take care of your business and each other.
All right, thanks for that question, Medford. We had an email question come in from Deer Park Elementary and Newport News, asking in terms of like, do you teach as well, and if so, how long have you been teaching? And besides you, what would be other examples of African American artists today that they might want to look at the works of?
Oh, well, wow, that's a great question. Yeah, I taught for 28 years and retired in 2000. And since then, I've been strictly an artist. And the beauty about that was that I was not painting so that I could eat, all right? When you paint to put food on the table, then I believe that society has more control over you. It dictates you to do what sells, okay?
And are there other African American artists that you can think the kids might be interested in?
Now,
both living and or not.
Okay, one that is deceased, which is my favorite, is an artist called Charles White. And he worked in the 40s and the 50s, and he had pretty much the same task that I have taken upon myself, to do positive images of African Americans. There are any number of great artists. One of my best friends, and we talked about yesterday, named Leroy Allen, who was a great artist. He just recently died. There is Dean Mitchell, who is probably one of the greatest artists in America today. Many friends of mine are artists. It seems that we can talk better together. Artists like Anthony High, who I am very high on, Bonnie Brown. These are basically artists from Kansas City.
Okay, those are good people for you to think about. So a lot of good names, and obviously if you go to the Portfolio Gallery website, they exhibit African American artists, and so you're going to see who they've had on exhibition here as well. So think about that as you explore different artists. Let's go to Cyprus again. Your thoughts on this work, or another question for Mr. Powell?
Yes, Christina wants to ask something about the expressions of the faces. Yes.
Hello, I'd like to know, what do you want to show with the facial expressions of the brothers?
Oh, that's a great question. Facial expressions of the brothers, because a lot of what we've talked about as we've talked about these programs, putting them together, is the emotion you like to convey from the face. It's not really about that particular model, but about the emotion that comes. So talk about the expressions of these gentlemen, and then the importance of those facial expressions of the emotion in your work.
And like I said, this was a piece that I did for African American males, and the faces are a little angry, okay, a little lost, okay, but as they come together, they work. It all works better when you're working together, and so if I could talk, I probably wouldn't paint. So forgive me for that bumbling there.
That's a great question, Cypress. Thank you for that one. And we've got another email question from Taj in Deer Park about, because it relates to emotions, that's why I bring it up here. Do you have emotions when you create a piece? Is like your emotion the same as that you're trying to put into the painting itself?
Of course. I think that art without emotion is, is pure decoration, and something you buy to match your couch. And I don't want my art to be that kind of art. When you buy a piece to match your couch, when the couch wears out, you throw the couch away. And you probably should throw the painting away too, because it won't match anything else in your house. And I never wanted my work just to be decorative. So emotions, yes, I'm a very emotional person, although you couldn't tell it.
Oh, we can tell that. We're going to have the chance to go to another work now as we continue to move through the gallery exhibition. So we're going to switch to the third room, and you're going to see a work, again, that's mixed media, but this one includes two women. So it's interesting, Lonnie and I were talking about the use of threes and odd numbers, and then as I created which images I thought might be cool to see, we've been able to see ones that don't fit that picture, which is kind of neat. So we'll move into that space as we go up to the other room with that, and I would mention at this point to our students in University City that if you got questions at any point in time, just walk into the next room with me so you guys can come in and ask them. That'll be perfectly great. And because we've got Brittany Woods Middle School here from University City, and Lonnie, we're going to join. Come right over here. I'll have the students look at this piece. This is a piece I like a great deal myself. We spent a good deal of time on another piece I liked on Tuesday in that program, and so, of course, since I'm here, we might as well talk about something that I like for sure. And we'll go through the same order of students again as we think about your reactions to this work and questions you might have. So I'll go back to Scottsdale, Arizona again in Salt River High School. Salt River, as you look at this particular piece, what are your thoughts about it? What do you notice in terms of the two women? Think about composition. Think about, I won't say more about that, but think about the composition, not of just the two of them together, but also in terms of where their eyes are going, what their heads are doing, the line of the painting, both on the outside as well as the inside of it, and see what your thoughts are. And then, do you guys have a question, Salt River? Take it away, Arizona.
Xavier has a question.
Which way are their heads turning?
Okay, in terms of their head position and where their head's turning, let's talk a little bit about that, Lonnie, because that's one of the things I find most interesting about this work, is that a lot of the works we've seen, a lot of the works I find around here, people are basically looking straight at us, or they're looking up. These women, maybe they're looking at each other, maybe they're looking down. Talk about that head placement.
Yeah. This piece, and when people say that they like this piece, I think that's the reason why, because it doesn't confront you. All right, and the heads are down. It's a more submissive view. Now, when you use the figure, I would imagine that most people would like this kind of figure drawing if it doesn't assail you. And there's a quiet, and there's a peace about this piece. And this is, of course, what I was trying to do. And although I like heads up and triumphant, but even in a more submissive type of composition, there is still dignity there, I think. And once again, the way the lights hit the white spots, I've gone back in here with pastel to brighten up these negative spaces and the spaces between the hair and all of that. All of that is rhythm to me. The garments, the wrapping, and everything. And once again, you kind of have this circular unity there.
Very cool. That was a great question about the head placement. I'm going to go to Deer Park and Newport News. I know we've gotten some email questions from you. Do you guys want to unmute your microphone? Do you have a thought about this particular work or a question? Go ahead, Deer Park.
Okay, who wants to do this? Okay, Haley, go ahead and ask, Haley. What are they doing in the picture? Did they come from somewhere?
Oh, cool question.
A special outing? A special outing?
Once again,
it's hard for us to see it as well on TV.
Okay.
And
go right ahead about, like, did they come from somewhere? Is there a story behind these two women?
Okay, now this, unlike the last piece that we saw, uses models. These models happen to be twins. I saw them together and I saw them as one unit. Okay. They probably don't like that, but to me, they were sisters, they were twins, and they obviously got along real well together. And that was part of the reason. Once again, not going to a class and just any model coming up and modeling and you drawing. These were people that I actually knew, that I wanted that harmony that they showed, sisterly love, and as opposed to the brotherly love over here, this is more of the sisterly thing. Although this is realistic and figurative, used as a model, the other one was conceptual out of my mind, but it's the same kind of theme. All right. They work well as a unit.
They do, and we can stay focused on the picture. Don't worry about showing me as we talk about this, because one of the things I notice is that it seems tender to me. The way her hand is placed on the other woman, there's a definite tenderness in that comes across to me that I think maybe is what attracts me to it. Let's go to Kennedy Elementary in Medford, Oregon again. Your thoughts about this work, or a question for you guys, Kennedy?
Before you paint, what do you think you're going to paint?
So how do you decide what you're going to paint?
Oh, How do you decide what you're going to paint? Do I just pop in your mind at 6 a.m. and you've just got to go to the easel?
I think that all the time that I'm living and thinking, that I am thinking about images to paint. All right? You might end up as a painting one of these days, a conceptual thing. I don't know, because right now the way the light is hitting you and the light behind you, and this is the way I look at the world. I look at the world as a painting. Okay, the cameraman, the shadows that are cast on the wall, everything is kind of an image to me that could be painted, and everything in life is worthy of painting. It doesn't matter how insignificant that we think it is. When I was a kid, before I used to draw a lot of animals. And I loved drawing tigers pouncing on a prey and leopards in the tree with the leaves and all of that. But I found out that man was probably the most interesting animal of them all. And so I fell in love with the figure when I was probably, you know, in middle school or somewhere around that, and I stopped. Yeah, I stopped. I haven't drawn an animal in so long now. Haven't done a still life in so long. Although I'm going to go back to still lifes and landscapes.
Oh wow!
But
well, we're gonna have a chance to look at one hopefully in this program today. So
one of my new approaches.
So hold that thought. We've got a couple email questions I want to get to in just a minute, but I want to go to Cyprus next. Cyprus, your thoughts about this work and a question from you guys?
Yes, Pablo, a question.
Is the painting a product of your imagination, or you use models?
Okay. All of my works are, even when I have a model, they're always a part of my imagination also. This was, like I said, twin sisters who just seeing them together inspired me to want to paint them. Okay, so this one was actually from a model, from two models. And then this also gave me the opportunity to buck the system a little bit, to put in an even number instead of
well, I'm glad we've had a chance to see the examples of both the system and the bucking of the system. I think that's good. It leads me to a couple of email questions, and I'm going to remind the folks from Brittany Woods, if you guys have a question you want to ask, just pop on over and come into this room, and you can feel free to ask that question if you've got one. At any point in time, just come over so I know that you're ready for it. We've had a couple of email questions. One about, this is from Lafayette. Have you ever been working on something that you just thought, okay, that's kind of weird, I don't know if it's going to work, and then all of a sudden it did work, and as we answer that, we'll walk to the next piece. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that happens all the time. And like I said, in putting a piece down and grabbing another one, the piece might stay in the studio for 2 years, and maybe I haven't lived enough, maybe I haven't experienced enough to finish that piece at that particular time. Might, like I said, might take 2 years. I might walk in and then all of a sudden it just pulls together.
Well, and you come back to the piece, and we had an email question come to us about advice you would have for budding artists. And I guess part of that would be, how do you know, well, you talk about advice in terms of career, whatever you like, but how do you know when a piece is done, Lonnie? Is it just a gut feeling?
And that is what is really the genius of the artist, knowing when to quit. When the artist has said all that he needs to say, then he should stop. And that is the golden moment, and that is just something that you're going to have to find out about by working on a piece too long and ruining it, or stopping too early, and people say, well, why didn't you finish that? But don't worry too much about what people say. you're the artist, you're in control, and it's your work.
Speaking of artists, I want to take the chance right now to remind folks that if you had a particular work that you had done that you wanted to share with Mr. Powell for him to see, I want you to come in and let me know that. I'm going to go to Technology High School in Newark, who I understand has joined us now. Great Technology, we're glad you're here because I know you've got a question. And then if someone has a work that they would like Mr. Powell to see, come in after that. Technology, take it away.
Our students had a few questions, and I guess they can ask now, and I think somebody did want to show their work, and they'll come right up and show their work.
That'll be
They'll
fine.
hold it up, and I'll try to put it on our document camera.
Go right ahead, Newark.
Ask your questions first.
I want to know if you were drawing a picture intended for a specific purpose, but ended up in a different way.
Thanks very much. Go right ahead, Lonnie.
I think the question was, had I ever started out on a piece
and
intended one thing and then ended up with something totally different, and that happens all the time. Yes, and I think that's good. You can always go back and do that thing you intended to do on another piece.
That's correct. Technology, you guys had another question. Go ahead and unmute again and ask your second question, and then we'll go to the example you want to share.
Okay, yes, we have another question. Please answer. Yeah, you have another question.
When you were drawing the brothers, I wanted to know why does the blue line start right under the shoulders?
Go ahead and repeat it for us. They're just a little bit ways away from the microphone, so the teacher can repeat it. That would be great.
Okay, yeah, she's looking for it. She wanted to know why, when you were drawing the brothers, the blue line started below the shoulders.
Oh, that's a very interesting specific question where the color fits in, the blue lines. You stay right there, but I'll look at it again. The red is what the shoulders are, and then there's blue, 2 shades of blue then as we go down.
That's just the way I felt at the time. The work, it just moved that way. No conscious reason. Subconsciously, there might be many, but no conscious reason for that, except that I told you that I like that blue right up against red.
Work to against each other. And I think that's an interesting thing for people to think about, is that a lot of times when we like read a novel or read a poem or look at a work, we maybe place too much into it that we, maybe we should just think more about responding to the work and what it says to us, and not necessarily concerning ourselves with what did the artist mean because he decided to put the finger like this as opposed to like this.
And of course, I was taught again that you don't cut at the neck, and you don't cut at the elbows and the wrist or any joints. And so this seems like a good cut. And of course, that's what you call a bust. If you just looked at the red, that would be a bust. And that's just like George Washington on the dollar bill.
We're going to go into the other. We're going to go into the other room now, Newark, so we can see your work. So Lonnie and I'll move in there so we can look at it quickly. Go ahead and come in and make sure you speak as we look at the painting, so the world can see the work as you guys talk about it. So if you want to give us about 15 seconds about this work, we'll look at it for you. Thanks so much, Newark.
This painting was a naturalistic picture that was shaded, and the specific was the intent why I chose this one was specifically for the eyes, because I like to focus on eyes and the shading of it.
Okay. Is that Mariah Carey? She kind of looks like Mariah Carey.
Talk about the eyes. They definitely do spring out for sure.
Right.
That's very noticeable. And we had been talking about expression before ourselves. The eyes convey a great deal of emotion. Thanks, Newark, for sharing that. I want to go to Cyprus. Cyprus, if you guys have a question and or a work of art to share, go right ahead. I think we've got about 7 minutes left in the program, guys. And don't forget, everybody, that if you have questions you haven't been able to ask us in the program, just email them to us at live@hectv.org, and we'll send you answers. Cyprus, take it away.
Tim, we have a painting by Anthi, and she would like to talk about it. Yes, Anthi?
Yes, I'm making a few studies on ancient heads, and this one is Antinos, an ancient Greek hero, and I used charcoal to make this paint. It's one of my first paint I used this material.
the other times I use the pencil, so I have to experience more the specific materials. What do you think of it? What do you think of that?
Okay. Thank you. One, thank you very much for sharing. And two, Lonnie, talk about this a little bit. What do you notice about it? You work in charcoal a great deal.
I love charcoal. And what's interesting about this particular piece is that the young lady is seeing what light does to a piece of work. She's not looking so much at line, she's looking at masses of lights and darks. And when you can start thinking that way, you're on the way to becoming great.
Very cool. Thanks so much for sharing. I want to thank you very much for sharing.
Of course, is practice, 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 okay?
Don't forget, folks, you can email us your questions to live@hectv.org. Don't forget it's live@hectv.org. We're going to walk into the other room because we want to show you an example of a watercolor piece that Mr. Powell has just been working on, and a landscape piece, because we just talked about the fact that that's new for you. So we'll walk back.
Right.
And we'll say hi to this camera as we look at it again. And then, but you talk about the fact that this is a new piece. I see 3/24/09, I think it says. And you're interested in going back to landscapes a little bit. We got about 5 minutes left, so we'll talk a little bit about the watercolor and landscape.
And this is a watercolor, and I call this Lakewood Autumn, which is a spot in Lee Summit, Missouri that is just. It was autumn time, and just the colors just, you know, I woke up one morning and looked out at that scene, and I had to paint it. Okay. And just like with the figures or anything else I draw, there is a connection that happens, and you just feel you have to paint it. I hadn't painted a landscape, well, I mean, I hadn't painted too many landscapes since I was in college, okay? Because the figure became so important to me that I probably spent all of my time doing the figure. But now that I have more time to work and do my art, I am going to go back, and you're going to, in the future, see some still lifes and some landscapes, and I'm going to approach them with the same vigor that I approach the figure. And I'm going to need to practice, practice, practice. Back on this question about artists that really inspired me, there is an artist in Kansas City named Henry Dixon, and he's just produced a book on painting with watercolors, which I think any student interested in watercolor might get a lot of use out of that book. He is also a member of the National Watercolor Society and numerous other watercolor societies around the country. And so Henry Dixon, look him up.
That's a good name for everybody to think about. That's a good name to know. I liked taking the time to look at this one for sure, because it was a watercolor. We had not seen that before. And it's interesting, and I think it's good for the students to think about the fact that obviously as an artist, you're constantly rethinking about what you want to do, and you're exploring new options. And so the idea that you're coming back to landscape after doing figurative work and exploring new things, I think is an important idea for them to realize that they may really like painting very abstract things now, and who knows, in 20 years, they may be doing figurative work themselves. So the idea that they're continually learning and studying, I think, is a really important part of the process.
And if you don't like this piece, I'm going to get better, because I'm going to practice, practice, practice.
Well,
like I tell you,
isn't it, kids, that he's been doing it for quite a while, and he still understands the importance of practice, practice, practice. So keep drawing. I know you guys probably had questions that we couldn't get to in this very fast, full, and fun. Thanks very much, Lonnie.
60
minutes. 60 minutes that we've had together. If you've got more questions, don't forget to send them to us at live@hectv.org. If you've got a work that you'd like Mr. Powell to look at that we weren't able to see today, then make a scanned image of it. Take a photo of it and send it as a JPEG to us again at live@hectv.org, and we'll make sure that image gets to Mr. Powell along with your email address, and he can respond to that particular work. He taught for 28 years, and I think he'd be very interested in seeing those works and responding. So I want to say thank you, Lonnie. Thank you, Robert. Thanks, Portfolio Gallery. Thanks to everybody who's joined us today. It's always a pleasure to be with you on HEC TV Live. We look forward to new shows next semester. Bye, everybody.